I gave GPT-4 access to a Python interpreter so that I could write programs and then fix errors in those programs in an iterative loop. If this sounds like a bad idea to you, it's because it probably is. GPT-4 is a lot better at writing code than GPT-3, 3.5, and some people, but the code it writes sometimes contains bugs. But it's also pretty good at fixing these bugs as long as you tell it to, so what if we let it run the code, get the errors from the code, and then fix that code all in a loop? That's exactly what I did. The first step in building the program was figuring out how exactly it was going to work. You needed a function to run the code and save the output, a function to send all of this over to GPT-4, a function to actually edit the code based on what GPT-4 sends back, and then a function to run all of this in a loop until there are no errors left. Running the code itself was pretty simple, it was just a few lines of Python, but the hard part came when figuring out how to get GPT-4 to actually edit the code. With parts of the design in mind, I sat down, opened up a Python file in NeoVim, and got to work. If you played with ChatGPT enough, you know that it can write code well enough, but it also includes a lot of explanations and other things that you don't really need to know. And it can't take in an unlimited amount of text, so it's in our best interest to cut out all of this unnecessary information and only understand what it wants to edit and why it wants to edit them. So in our case, we're going to have GPT return a JSON-like object that tells us the line numbers it's editing and how it's editing them. It needs to be able to add lines, edit lines, and delete lines, so we'll include this in our prompt, and we'll also let it output an explanation in the JSON object so that we can get high accuracy while not including too much text. From our end, we send it instructions telling it that its job is to fix code in the format that we specified by sending edits back, and to help it out, we send it the code that we ran, the output and errors, along with all the other code files in the directory if they prove to be useful. Additionally, we could pass it an intention of the program to give GPT a little bit of a guiding hand. Once we get the edits back, it's just a few lines of Python code to apply them, and then we just need to run this iteratively until no errors are found in a while loop, and then boom, we're done with the code part. If you want to check it out, I'll leave a link to the GitHub repository in the description down below. Feel free to do whatever you want with it. Okay, so let's do a quick demo. Here on the left, we have a problem because we're printing out the square of A instead of the square of A. So we're just going to pass this into our program to fix it, and then it'll print out the error, and then it'll send this error over to GPT-4, which will take a while because it's a lot slower than GPT 3.5, and then we'll be able to see why it changed what it did, what it thought the program was meant to do, as soon as it sends us our chat completion back in however long it takes. Okay, it sends it back, and it's pretty obvious that it realizes that the program should calculate the square of a number, and it realizes that the reason it wasn't working is because there's a typo in the function name. So when we reload the repository or the buffer, we'll see that it actually changes the code correctly, and we're done. Small example, but it's very cool. It works, but there's a few obvious problems here. First of all, it's really slow. Second of all, it only focuses on runtime errors, most of which you could probably fix by yourself pretty quickly. Of course, if you include a unit test, you could turn logical errors into runtime errors, and then it could fix those as well, which is great. Third, it really struggles with indentation, which is a problem if you're trying to get it to fix Python code. In my testing, I ran into a lot of indentation errors that is sometimes just never fixed at all. And this is because we're asking you to return stuff in a JSON format, so it can't actually have the context of the lines above and below the line it's editing, so it can't get the indentation level right, which is a big problem. If you asked it to return just a code block, you could probably get it right. I tested it on C++ code and it worked fine because indentation doesn't really matter as much then. Another huge problem is that you probably shouldn't be running code you didn't write on your PC because that could lead to some very interesting problems. So be careful before you run the script, or just add a verification step before you allow the code to be run. Next, I was also really mad about getting rate limited a lot. I got rate limited a ton, which meant that my sessions couldn't be that long for fixing the bugs, so you can only really fix small minor bugs because you just get rate limited by OpenAI. If you want, you can add some features to the code yourself, like auto-generating tests or editing logical functionality and not just runtime errors. It's not super useful yet, but it's only a matter of time before this gets quicker and more viable to use very frequently, and I'm really excited for that time to come. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. It helps me and the channel out a ton. Anyways, YouTube is telling you to go watch this video, so I think you should go do that. Their recommender systems are great. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.